Yes, sir.
Show the jury, please.
You're in the courtroom?
You have your witness, Mr. Mood, or somebody?
Yes, sir. So we call Captain David Baldwin.
Everybody be seated, please. Better wait to get the witness. If you would face the clerk and be sworn, please.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Have a seat, please. May proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. Could you please introduce yourself to our jury and spell your name for our court reporter?
Sure. Good afternoon. I'm Captain David Baldwin with the Bay County Sheriff's Office.
Captain Baldwin, how long have you been with the Bay County Sheriff's Office?
Since 1992.
Okay.
Going on 25 years now.
I want to direct your attention back to February 22nd of 2014. Do you recall that date?
Yes, sir.
What were you doing on February 22nd?
Actually, I was on call and was called out by my captain at the time and was asked to come out in reference to a follow-up investigation for the Leon County Sheriff's Office.
And what was your understanding of this this call out?
We were given what's called a be on the lookout for two children that they had a child alert from, and also to look out for the father of the two children, who was a person of interest into a death investigation that they were working. And that information came from Leon County Sheriff's Office through dispatch to our supervisor at the time, excuse me, and then it was relayed to me, and an address was given.
Do you recall what the address was that you went to?
I'll look at my notes. It was 4123 Nancy Drive
And
on
could
Panama
you
City Beach.
spell Nancy? I think it's not the traditional spelling.
It
for
is not. It's Nancee Drive.
Okay, and this house is located in Bay County?
Yes, sir, on Panama City Beach.
Okay, and around what time did you arrive at the Nancy Drive address?
On the 22nd at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so it was about 4:11 p.m. is when I made it to that location.
Okay, and what did you do upon arriving at the location? What did you observe?
I'm in an unmarked car, so I did what's called a drive-by to see if the vehicle that was at the location that was given to us from the BOLO, they gave us a vehicle description to look for that potentially was used in the missing children and also the subject. So I did a drive-by, and the vehicle was at that location. I turned back around. Nancy Drive is just a one-way in, one-way out, dead-end street off one of our main roads in Thomas Drive out on the beach. So I did a drive-by, came back out, went across the street and sat and just did surveillance to see if anybody was outside coming to or from the vehicle. There wasn't anybody when I first went by. I notified my chain of command that the vehicle that Leon County was looking for was there, and held across the street.
Okay, and the vehicle that you're just talking about, could you describe the vehicle to us?
It was a large-size SUV, and I apologize, I don't remember the color. I think it was dark, but from the Beyond the Lookout, it was the same vehicle that they were looking for,
Okay.
description-wise. And I apologize, I don't have that with my notes.
Well, taking a look at your report, help refresh your recollection as to that, the vehicle make.
Yes, sir, it was an SUV,
Okay.
but again, I did not put, and I apologize, the color or the tag number at the time.
Okay.
But driving by, I recognized that that was the vehicle that they were looking for.
Okay.
And the address is the same as the address given from past files of the person of interest.
Okay. Did you have occasion to ever observe anyone come out to that vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Could you
The
tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, sir. It was probably only 15, 20 minutes of sitting across the street. I saw a tall white male, dark hair, coming across to the vehicle, and he went back and forth a few times. In fact, one time he came through with some baby strollers, secured them in the vehicle, was back and forth to the vehicle, which what it looked like he was packing and getting ready to leave. I made notification to my commander, and at that time sent additional units to me believing that that was a subject, in fact, that Leon County was looking for.
And was the suspect that they were looking for Adam Frasch?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any opportunity to, occasion to interact with Mr. Frasch?
Yes, sir. Backup units arrived on scene, and I remained in the surveillance position as they drove down to that location. They made contact with him as he was getting into the vehicle. I pulled up shortly thereafter, just as they went in. He was secured for officer safety reasons, and immediately we started looking for the children. They were inside the SUV in the back seat in car seats. And that's when I came up to the scene as he was being secured. Again, I got out, looked in the car, saw the kids were there. The kids were fine. I immediately radioed back to our dispatch that we had the 2 children that were described in the child alert, and they then bounced that back to Leon County that we had both children safe and secure, and also Mr. Frasch there as well.
Was Mr. Frasch detained?
At that point, yes. I explained to him exactly what was happening, and he made an utterance of, "Is this about my wife? Is she dead?" And I did not have an answer for him. I said, "This is because of the children, and there is an active investigation that Leon County has, and you are listed in that investigation, and if you'd like, please stay here. You're not going to go anywhere while we have you here. We're going to have the kids safe. There's a lot more that has to take place from this point on." So I explained basically up to that point why we're there and what we were doing.
So no details surrounding what may or may not have happened to Samira Frasch were provided
Not at all.
to Mr. Frasch?
No, sir.
Okay. Was Mr. Frasch transported anywhere from the residence at Nancy Drive?
Yes, sir. From that location, we just made sure there was nobody else in the house. The children were then put into one of our unmarked patrol cars and taken to the sheriff's office, our sheriff's office, as well as Mr. Frasch.
Okay.
And we made notification to the Leon County investigators that we had him in custody. And right about that time, they said they had a warrant for his arrest at that point as well.
Now, did this conclude your involvement with the investigation?
And that was the end of my day then. Yes, sir.
Nothing further?
Ross?
No problem.
All right, any juror have a question of this witness? All right, if not, you may step down. Do we need to keep him any further?
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor.
You're excused. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, sir.
Call your next witness.
State to call Lieutenant Chad King to the stand.
Here, please. You face the clerk and be sworn, please.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Have a seat. Slide up the microphone, please. Proceed.
Good afternoon. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your name for our court reporter?
I'm Lieutenant Chad King with the Bay County Sheriff's Office. That's Chadking.
And Lieutenant King, how long have you been with the Bay County Sheriff's Office?
18 years.
Okay. I want to get right to it and direct your attention to the date of February 22nd, 2014. Do you recall that day?
I do.
What were you doing that day? What were your duties that day?
It was my day off, but then I got called by my supervisor to assist with the investigation that unfolded with Mr. Frasch.
Okay. I guess tell us about your first interactions with Mr. Frasch. What were the circumstances?
He was brought to the sheriff's office along with his children. He was put in an interview room, and then we dealt with the Department of Children and Families to take care of the children first, and then we began to interview him at the Leon County investigators' request.
Okay. Do you provide a Miranda form
I did.
to, I guess, detainees who you're going to question?
Right. Yes,
Was a Miranda form provided to Mr. Frasch?
it was.
Do you, do you see Mr. Frasch in the courtroom here today?
I do.
Could you please describe an article of clothing he's wearing?
Brown jacket.
Would you recognize the Miranda form you provided to Mr. Frasch that day if you saw it here again?
I would.
Permission to approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Lieutenant King, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 96. Do you recognize State's Exhibit 96?
I do.
How do you recognize State's Exhibit 96?
It's a rights form that we at the Bacon Sheriff's Office use, and then filled out by me and Mr. Frasch and the witness.
Could you please explain sort of the procedure when you're providing this form to an interviewee or a detainee, how you could walk through the form and explain the rights to the person to be interviewed?
There's a couple different ways that it's sometimes
Let's
done.
hear what he did in this instance, please.
What I did is I provided the form to Mr. Frasch. I obviously made sure he could read and understand, and he read the form himself. And then as he got halfway through, he obviously marked X for it. Did he understand his rights and signed it? And then he continued with the second half of the form, which is labeled waiver of rights. And he did he wish to waive his rights? He XDS there and also signed it.
Does it appear to be in the same condition as when you impounded it into evidence?
It is.
Your Honor, at this time, the State moves to introduce what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 96 into evidence.
Without objection.
Be admitted without objection. Let's go to sidebar, please. Court reporter.
Permission to publish, Your Honor.
You may.
Lieutenant King, I'm showing you what's now been introduced into evidence as State's Exhibit 96. Your Honor, would you mind providing the witness this point?
Okay.
Thank you. Looking at State's Exhibit 96, where did Mr. Frasch sign?
Right there and right there.
And that's where he's marked yes, that he agrees to speak with you?
Correct.
What did Mr. Frasch tell you about what time he left Tallahassee?
He explained that he left at Tallahassee around 8 o'clock.
Okay. Did he tell you why he had left Tallahassee?
He basically said that his wife asked him to leave with the kids to give her some time alone.
So, based on what he told you, it appeared that he had permission to have the two girls?
Yes.
Did he ever ask anything about his wife or her condition or anything like that?
He asked several times. He initially let us know that he had been told that there had been something that happened to his wife at the house, and he had asked several times.
Did you provide him, I guess, initially with information about the condition of his wife or anything like that?
Initially, no, I did not.
And what was the reasoning behind not providing him any information?
Well, I wanted to gather information about him, who he was, obviously for our documentation, and he had started to talk about the condition or the relationship, I guess you might say, between he and his wife. Some things about a gentleman named Jay that that she that they knew, I guess. And just he was kind of, I guess you might say, almost rambling on about that, and I wanted to let him continue to do that until I felt needed to let him know.
Okay. What information before you started the interview did you have about the condition of Samira Frasch?
Only that she was found deceased in the pool at their house.
Had you received any information about a flip-flop?
Not
flip-flops?
initially, no.
Any information about a hose?
Not initially, no.
Any information about a dog?
No.
Cleaning solution?
No.
So, when you're questioning Mr. Frasch, eventually do you confirm his wife's death?
Right.
What was his reaction to the news?
Crying. He, kind of put his hands over his face. Was verbally crying, I guess you might say, out loud.
Were you able to observe if there were any actual tears?
None that we saw, no.
Okay, I guess when he removed his hand from his face, did you observe any tears?
None.
Did he offer any explanation about what could have happened to his wife?
Something about the dog maybe trying to catch him. I think he mentioned that they were going to take the dog to get groomed or something, or she had mentioned something of that before they left, and that maybe he was something about trying to get the dog into the kennel or something along those lines to do that. Maybe she had fallen in the pool. He knew she didn't know how to swim.
Did he mention anything about a hose?
No.
Did he mention whether or not Ms. Frasch had been drinking the night before?
Yes.
Okay. What did he tell you about that?
He said that she had a couple of bottles of champagne the night before, or maybe 5 glasses, something along those lines. I think he said that she normally drinks a couple bottles a night. I want to say he mentioned 4 or 5 glasses of champagne. And I remember something about the hose.
Okay.
When I initially said no.
What were you told about the hose?
He said that he had pulled some hose out, I'm not sure when, but to do something with the pool, and there was more hose out than normal. That's pretty much all he said about that.
So he seemed to be suggesting he hoped I guess, what was he suggesting about the hose?
I don't know. He didn't really go any more explanation other than that, other than maybe was trying to, it almost just seemed that there was throwing some excuses out there as to how she fell in the pool maybe.
Nothing further. Oh, well, lastly, were you alone in the interview room with, who else
No.
was in the interview room?
Special Agent Kristen Cortez with FDLE.
Nothing further.
Cross.
How long were you questioning Dr. Frasch?
Totally, maybe an hour, I'm
Okay.
guessing.
And what time did this questioning start?
I was hoping it said in this report, but does not. Early afternoon. Rough guess, 3 or 4 in the afternoon, maybe.
Well, if he was picked up by your office sometime after 4 o'clock, then he would have been transported to the sheriff's department, is that right?
It does. I found it. It does. Says 18:15, which is 6:15 p.m. So
6:15.
I was a couple hours off.
Okay, so that's when the conversation started. And did there come a time when Leon County investigators showed up?
They did come down. Yes.
And then questioning continued with them, is that right?
I presume I wasn't present for that.
Okay, you had left, is that right?
Right.
Now, you were asking Dr. Frosch questions?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have a list of questions that you were asking him?
No, sir.
And this was in an interview room at the Sheriff's Department,
It was.
which has recording capabilities and video capabilities?
Not at the time. No.
Not at the time. So basically, there's no recording, video or audio of these conversations?
No, sir.
And the notes that you referred to, were they taken contemporaneously with the interview or after you finished up?
These were actually notes that were taken by the Special Agent Cortez while we were doing the interview.
So they're not even your notes, is that
No,
right?
sir.
Okay. And so these questions that were put to Dr. Frasch, the answers he gave to you were in response to the questions that you put to him?
I would say so.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
Redirect.
Lieutenant King, were you present through all questioning of Mr. Frasch?
With me and Special Agent Cortez, yes.
Okay, there was no point where, I guess, you got up and left, or she got up and left, and there was only one of you in the room with Mr.
No.
Frasch?
No.
So any notes, or I guess, from her reports, not notes, but are her reports consistent with your recollection of the interview with Mr. Frasch?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Any juror have a question of this witness? All right, you can step down. Do we need to keep him further?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
You're excused. Thank you for being here. Call your next witness.
State Call Detective Bill Rebel to stand.
If you face the clerk and be sworn, please.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I did.
Have a seat. Light up the microphone, please.
Good afternoon.
Hey,
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your name for our court reporter?
Detective Bill Revel with Leon County Sheriff's Office. Bill's Billrevell.
And Detective Rebel, how long have you been with the Leon County Sheriff's Office?
Approximately 12 years.
Okay. And what do your normal duties include?
I'm currently assigned to the Violent Crimes Unit.
Directing your attention to February 22nd, 2014, did you have occasion to become involved in this case?
I did.
Could you briefly detail what your involvement was?
I was initially notified by the sergeant of the unit at that time, and I responded to the residents off Inverness Drive.
And what did you do once arriving at the Inverness Drive residence?
Upon my arrival, the patrol had obviously already been there, and crime scene was there, and they had already secured the scene with tape. At that point, my role was to go to the security gates and start talking to the security officers and start working on getting surveillance footage.
Okay, and I guess did you have occasion to work with the housing authority and the security there to secure footage of maybe events that would have been important?
Yes.
What steps did you take next after, I guess, working on the surveillance footage?
After working on the surveillance footage, I went back to the residence. I think a search warrant had been obtained at that time for the residence. I initially started to assist executing the search warrant.
And were items that were believed to be of value collected and pounded into evidence and photographed?
They were. I didn't stay for the whole execution of the search warrant. During the search warrant, we got information that Mr. Frasch had been taken into custody in Panama City. And at that point, myself and Sergeant Google responded to Panama City to conduct an interview.
Okay. Did you have occasion to meet Mr. Frasch?
I did.
Do you see Mr. Frasch in the courtroom here today?
I do.
Could you please identify my article of clothing?
The tan jacket and defense tan.
Briefly detail for us your first interaction or the circumstances of your interaction with Mr. Frasch.
On that particular night?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, we responded to the Bay County Sheriff's Office, and he was already in the interview room.